From Portsmouth, Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Welcome to the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I'm Steve Kelly on the call. This is Casey McCoole at Mark Welch. Good as always to have you along with us. My name is Steve Kelly. I will be your host, narrator, and guide during this Class D North match. Originally live streamed on Saturday, September 28th. Just a minute before 10 a.m., and that's Casey McCoole wasting no time, starting out with a head pin shot, with the 4-pin being the only pin remaining. And will Casey McCoole open with a spare? He'll just slightly miss to the left. This stream will be available for rewatching anytime upon the conclusion of this match, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And Casey McCoole will open up with a 9-box to start out this first of 5 games in this standard ACST match. Bowlers will bowl 5 boxes at a time, alternating bowlers and alternating lanes between each set of 5. Folks, for those interested, I'd like to highlight a few things. In most cases, this broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so if you enjoyed this feature, please feel free to enable it in the controls below. If you're watching this broadcast on YouTube, the transcript feature will also be available, and that's Casey McCoole, just off to the right of the head pin with a 7 drop, the 1-2-4 on the deck. And Casey will clean it up, though, for a spare. Casey enthusiastic about that one. He'll spare it up for 19 after 2. And we are off to the races, folks. We're 2 boxes into this 5-game match here at the seacoast of New Hampshire, at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. That's Casey McCoole. He's filling a spare. And he'll fill it with 4. He's just off the head pin a little bit. He's currently sitting at 27 after 3 plus 1 more ball. Second ball sails through the void. McCoole looking to clean up, and unfortunately he's going to sail the ball through the void twice, so that will be a 4-box for McCoole. That will put him at 27 after 3. Still plenty of time. Every bowler makes some mistakes now and again. It's no worries. So folks, also throughout the match I'll describe the play-by-play action and provide up-to-the-minute scoring to the best of my ability. Keep an eye on the unofficial scoreboard on your screen. It is here for the benefit of the broadcast, while the bowlers maintain their own official records separately. Scores may be subject to review or correction. And that's Casey McCoole with another left side half Worcester plus a friend. But Casey McCoole's second ball is right in the pocket. He buries the pocket, but he leaves the 4 and the 7. So it was a valiant effort for a spare, but he's now going for a 10-box on the 4 and the 7. He'll miss it for an 8-box. Puts Casey McCoole at 35 after 4. What can I tell you about Casey McCoole? So Casey McCoole, last year he was in Class B North Division 4. This year he's in Class D North Division 1. He started out with 1 match played so far, season record of 2-12. That match was bowled at home. Casey McCoole bowls out of Boutwell's Bowling Center in Concord this year. Last year he bowled out of Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Casey's just off the head pin. He drops 7. The 1, the 2, the 1, the 3, and the 6 pins are on the deck. Casey's looking to spare it up. And he will spare it up. He'll run down the 3 pins for another spare. That's a 2-mark half. 45 and a ball for Casey McCoole. A mark is always something good to sit on. But he's starting out pretty decently. Just needs to work on the fills and maybe just some of the wild pitches. But other than that, Casey McCoole is starting out well. 45 and a ball after 5. So we are now going to say hello to someone who I've never covered on my streams before. This is Mark Welch. And Mark Welch, as far as I understand, is a newcomer to the ACST this year, Class D Division 1. Mark Welch will start out to the left of the head pin, but the pins are still mixing down there. They're still mingling and mixing. He's dropped 6 so far. That's the 1, a sliding 5, 3, and 10 pins. And Welch gets by on the second ball. So Mark Welch has an equal record to Casey McCoole, also 2-12. He bowled 1 match at home. He has a home average of 90.2, high single 107, high series 451. That will be a 9-box opener for Mark Welch. And to remind you, Casey McCoole finished with a 45 half plus a ball. Casey McCoole just with 1 headpin shot so far, no splits yet. Mark Welch will assess those stats as we get a few more numbers on the board. We need more data, I tell you. Mark Welch fires. Ball slightly just drifts away from the head pin at the last minute. He's dropped 6 so far. It is the 1, 3, 6, and 8 pins on the deck for a spare leave. 1, 3 pocket should take everything out. Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth has some interesting approaches and lanes, but that's a spare for Mark Welch. He'll play it rather straight, and that pays off for him. But yeah, Portsmouth's approaches, I've noticed, and I've been speaking with a few bowlers about this, the slide at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama is a little bit stiff. In fact, I know Stephen Davis was having trouble in his match against Dominic Palladino, where his knee was just having a lot of trouble towards the end, and I know I noticed it right off the bat when I was bowling. So that's a 7 fill for Mark Welch on the nose, on the head pin. Left side triangle, 4, 5, 2. And he'll hit the 4, miss the 5, and miss the 2. So Welch is at 26 after 2 currently. And it may appear there may need to be a score correction. I will double check on that, just to be certain. Was it a 6? Okay, just wanted to check. Sorry, I just wanted to check because Casey McCoole was out of frame, or out of the area, so we will put it in as a 6. We'll follow the bowlers. Every once in a while, just want to confirm.
Nico, take a picture of that.
And Mark Welch is on the head pin with a split. It's the 4, 5, 6, 3, 7. That's a really interesting shot. No wood to help him. Actually, there appeared to even be a sleeper that I didn't even see. That could have been why I thought it was a 7 fill and not a 6 fill earlier. The sleeper fins at Portsmouth can be notoriously difficult to see from a distance, so bear in mind that may occasionally happen. But anyways, that's 44 after 4 for Mark Welch. That is confirmed. Anyways, so Mark Welch so far has 0 strikes, 7 spares, and 7 tens this season. 28% perfect box percentage, 451 seasonal total pins. Just 1 match played, bear in mind, and that's Mark Welch nearly with his first strike of the season. On a head pin drop, he drops all but the 6 pin on the deck. Some wood around. You could either play it or not, up to you. By you, I mean Mark Welch, but he'll sail it to the right. He'll try to play it direct, but the ball doesn't hook until a little bit too late, or it doesn't hook enough, one of the two. Mark will miss it again, and he'll take a 9 box. And Mark Welch is going to finish with 53 after 5, just for his first half of the first game of 5 here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Casey McCoole currently at 45 after 5. These scores are confirmed. Mark Welch with 3 for 5 headpin shots. Casey McCoole 1 for 5 for headpin shots so far. Mark Welch, 1 split. Splits are contingent upon whether or not you hit the headpin, so bear that in mind as we take our journey down the headpin and split stat territory. Casey McCoole fires for the first time on lane 14 today. He's going to fill. Pins are still falling. It's going to be a 7 fill. And Casey just reminding Mark that with this automatic score system, late falling pins do not register often. So it's one of those things where the bowlers do need to keep tabs on it to make sure that that is maintained. So Casey McCoole is left with the 1, the 4, and the 7 pin on the deck. And he'll misfire. He's off the head pin. He will get the head pin, but only through the grace of the wood. He's left with the 4 and the 7 pins on the deck. Wood still rolling. Likely will not be of any help as it rolls out of play. Casey plays the 4 and the 7, and he'll take a 10 box. And that will put Casey at 62 and 6. Casey is 1 for 6 on headpins today. We'll see if that stat will improve. That one will not improve it. He takes the 10 pin out on the first ball. Casey for a remedial second ball. Hopefully he can get a spare out of this. And he takes a few more. He leaves the 1 and the 9 on the deck. Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama has both a league and a birthday party going on right now. Saturday mornings are prime time at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. If you have a need to throw a birthday party or have any kind of shindigs and you live in the seacoast area, might I recommend Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. Tons of stuff to do here. Big arcade, 22 lanes. Great bar, great food, great everything. Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama was renovated in 2018. That's Casey McCoole to the right of the headpin. Half Worcester plus some friends. It's the 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 10, I believe. No sleepers this time. And he takes a few more out for a banana split. Casey McCoole's favorite shot, the banana split, the 4, 6, 7, 10. No spare for Casey McCoole, but he's looking for a 10 box. Let's see. He turns to the camera and winks. Casey McCoole for the 10 box on lane 14. And he'll take 2 out on the right and leave 2 on the left for an 8 box. That puts Casey McCoole at 79 after 8. Casey McCoole with a season average of 92.8 after bowling 1 match this season. His high single is 101. His high series is 464 with 1 strike, 6 spares, and 8 tens. And that's Casey McCoole on the headpin this time with a split. And it looks like it's a 6 drop. The 4, 6, 3, 10 is what he's looking at. Somewhat medium difficulty spare leave. If you be in the 3, 6 pocket in the right way and can kick the 4 down, you'll have a spare. Casey will try that, and he'll take the 3, 6, 10. Not on the right side of the pocket, but the left. The piece of wood almost bounces off the sidewall to take the 4, but it sails behind it. So there's no mark for Casey McCoole. Shooting at a single for a 10 box on the 4 pin. McCoole fires, and he nearly connects, but he'll take a 9 box. That will put McCoole at 88 and 9. Should be 88 and 9. The score system registered it as a 10 box for some reason. It was just corrected to an 88. Thank you, Mark. Casey McCoole for this final first ball of the first game. He fires to the right of the headpin, and he drops 6. 1, 2, 6, 10 is what Casey's looking at. Casey McCoole having some trouble finding the headpin so far. He's 2 for 10. And Casey will spare this up, though. He needed that one. That's his 3rd spare of the game. 98 in a ball. That may have significantly solved a few issues for Casey McCoole. You can be a strike bowler or a spare bowler. And if you're a spare bowler, sometimes missing the headpin isn't as much of a problem as it would be for, say, a strike bowler. Casey McCoole has 464 seasonal total pins so far. His perfect box percentage is 32%. Casey McCoole's final first ball of the first game. He's off to the left of the headpin, but he'll take a 6 fill. And I believe that should put him at 104. I think. Looking at whatever kind of math is going on up there. It looks like it gave him a 4 fill on the display. Was that a 6 fill? I'll have to double check with that because the score system gave him a 4 fill. And unless my math was wrong, I'm pretty sure that was a 6 fill. So let's put an asterisk on that. Double check with Casey in a little bit. That was a 6 fill, right? No, you had a 6 fill, right? Yeah. One second. Yeah. Oh, it was. Okay. Okay. Just conversing with the bowlers. I just want to get it right on the stream. We'll put it in as a 4 fill for 102 for Casey McCoole. Mark Welch to the left of the headpin. He drops 6. I don't know if it's my eyes not working today or I'm just not seeing things. Again, the whole thing was sleeper pins, but that was easy to see. That was a spare for Mark Welch, 72 and a ball after 7 for Mark Welch. That is confirmed. Mark Welch is He's only bowled one match versus Jamie McKenna in round 1. He took 2 points with a 451 series, averaging 90.2. Mark Welch. Appears to be a 7 fill. I'm going to add appears to be to every one of my calls now because now I'm wondering if I'm seeing things correctly. But Mark Welch will play for another spare on the 7 conversion for a spare for Mark Welch. It's great pinning action. So Mark Welch is at 89 in a ball after 8. In round 1 versus Jamie McKenna, Mark Welch averaged 90.2 with 0 strikes, 7 spares, and 7 tens. Mark Welch is filling out spare now. He's to the left of the head pin, but he drops 8. He is 4 for 9 on head pin shots, but he has 3 marks. So he's doing all right so far. He's on the 1-3 pocket, and he sails to the left. Must have gotten the yips on that one. In round 1, Mark Welch bowled a 73, 87, 88, 96, and 107. That will be an 8 box for Mark Welch. Left a spare on the table there, but he is at 105. He will take the first game against Casey McCoole. After I did confirm that Casey McCoole finished with a 102 after just verbally confirming the fill with him. Again, the on-stream score is always unofficial. That's why every once in a while I might check and verify with the bowlers on a few things just to make sure, especially with the automatic score system, Cubic AMF. Sometimes things genuinely get missed, and sometimes they don't get missed. So it's always a moving target. Welch is on the head pin with a split. It's a spread eagle minus the 2. 4, 6, 3, 7, 10 is what Mark Welch is shooting at. And he plays the 6-10. And a piece of wood may take out the 4 pin. It wiggles it, but we don't have an Academy Lane special where a spinning pin takes out another pin. Didn't quite happen this time. Mark Welch will clean up for a 9 box, and he'll finish with a 114. Victorious over Casey McCoole is 102 by 12 pins. The end of the first of 5. This is Class D action at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on the seacoast of New Hampshire on this Saturday morning. I'm Steve Kelly on the call. It's great to have you along with us. This is the end of the first game, and we'll be transitioning to the second game now. If you are just joining us, you haven't missed a whole lot. We still have plenty of bowling to go, folks. Casey McCoole just bowled a 102, and Mark Welch bowled a 114. And we're here in the second game here at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama from 1956 was renovated in 2018. Has Cubic AMF BES automatic scoring. Has an excellent pro shop. Check that out. If you're ever up here and you're in need for bowling equipment, check out Bowl-O-Rama, and they will have everything on display, I am told, is in stock. And they have a lot of stuff on display, particularly bowling balls, slide equipment, some bowling shoes, a lot of different sizes and things. All of that. One of the best stocked pro shops I've seen in the Candlepin bowling space, aside from the internet. Well, including the internet even. Anyways, Casey McCoole is just off to the left of the head pin. He's been struggling on the head pins today, but he'll fire for a spare shot on the 1-3 pocket. Pin's still mixing, but I don't think he's going to get a spare out of it. I say I don't think, but more pins fell than I thought. 10 pin is left on the deck. And again, my apologies if the pins are slightly cut off at the very top. This is a challenge of Bowl-O-Rama where the walls down there, the ends of the lanes, come down very low, and it's difficult to get a zoom camera calibrated where you can see all the pins, yet also not get bowlers' heads in the way. And I'm kind of just straddling that line almost exactly, so even with my best efforts, you may occasionally see a bowler's head or hand, depending on what happens. Casey McCoole is to the right of the head pin. There's spare shot, and he's on the 1-2 pocket, but he doesn't get much out of it. He's left with a 7-4-5 on lane 13 at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. And he'll get by for a 7 box. That's 17 after 2 for Casey McCoole. That is confirmed. Casey McCoole still 2 for 12 on head pins. Having some trouble finding it today. Only one split, but splits are contingent on head pins. He's taken 15 in for fills on marks, averaging 5 per mark. Casey McCool's on the 1-3 pocket, buries it that time. And he's left with a 4-7. No wood, straightforward, spare leave. McCoole plays it, and he'll get it. That's a spare for Casey McCoole. That's 27 and a ball after 3 for Mr. McCoole, Mr. Indiana Jones McCoole himself. Casey McCoole, again, it's early season, so we're not going to talk about positions and placements just yet because not all of our bowlers have even bowled matches yet. Season average of 92.8. He's got 1 strike, 6 spares, and 8 tens, not counting this match. That's Casey McCoole on a spare fill. He's to the left of the head pin. I believe that's going to be a 5 fill. Again, emphasis on I believe. Nope, it's a 6 fill after second review. And Casey will miss the object pin. He's left with the 1 and the 8 pins on the deck. The 1 and the 8 down there on lane 13. McCoole will miss the head pin and take the back row. He'll get a 9 box. That will put him at 42 after 4. That is confirmed. And what more can I tell you about Casey McCoole? He's Mr. Indiana Jones himself. This is, if you ever have an idol in life, make it Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. That's a 9 drop for Indiana Jones McCoole, leaving the 5 pin and the 5 pin only on the deck. Single pin spare leave opportunity. Piece of wood in the vicinity of the 5 pin. He could play it. Might be relatively safe to play, and he's going to. And he'll take another spare. That's 2 mark half for Casey McCoole. That's 52 after 5 for Casey McCoole. 52 and a ball after 5, I will say. If in case you missed it, Casey McCoole had a 102 in the first game. Mark Welch had a 114 in the first game. Yep. I was saying that. I was like, it might be safe to play that wood.
Yeah, well, I saw that.
Mark Welch to the left of the head pin. Still in Casey. I was like, yep, that was definitely safe to play. Mark Welch gets a few pins out in the back left corner. It's a 3 drop. He's thinking hard about it. And he'll fire. He's on the 1-3 pocket. He buries it except for the 5 pin. So no mark for Mark Welch. No mark for Mark. And he'll go for the 10 box, and he'll get the 10 box. 10 after 1 for Mark Welch. And so let's take a look at Mark Welch. So again, he's only bowled 1 match himself, and he has the same season record as Casey McCoole, believe it or not. His season average is 90.2 so far. His high 1 is 107. His high 5 is 451. He's yet to find a strike this season, but maybe we'll find it this match. We'll see. 7 spares, 7 tens, 28% perfect box percentage, and 451 seasonal total pins. It's Mark Welch on the nose, on the head pin, buries the pocket. 8-10-4 is what he's looking at. It's a split and a head pin shot for Mark Welch. The 4, the 8, and the 10. I would play the 4 and the 8, and I would use that wood in some way to try to kick over to the 10. Maybe redline it. Might be a little bit dangerous. Maybe go a little bit higher than redline. But Mark Welch misses it all, so we can only speculate. Welch fires on lane 14 at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. He'll take 1 for an 8 box. 18 after 2 for Mr. Welch. Mark Welch, 6 for 12 on the head pin, a 50% percentage. Of those 6 head pin shots, he has 3 splits. Not bad at all. He's been totaling 21 in fills on marks, averaging 7 per mark. Mr. Mark Welch. Just waiting on a ball return real quick, but Mark Welch is ready to fire. And Mark Welch, he fires on lane 14. He's on the head pin. He buries the pocket. He's dropping 9 off at the outset, leaving the 5 pin on the deck. I tell you, he's looking for strikes. He's looking for his first strike of the season, and he wants to do it on this stream. Welch versus the 5 pin. And he just narrowly misses the 5 pin. He's frustrated with himself on that one. Single pin 10 box for Mark Welch. This could be a miss the second, get the third situation. And it will be. That's a PGS. That will be a 10 box for Mark Welch, his second 10 box of the game. And that puts Mark Welch at 28 after 3. And to remind you, Casey McCoole is at 52 in a ball after 5. At the same point in the match, Casey McCoole was at 33 after 3 with a spare 6. Mark Welch on lane 14 at Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. He's on the head pin, once again burying the 1-3 pocket. It's the 4 and the 10. Mark Welch is on the head pin for sure. He's just getting some rather unfortunate or unlucky leaves. They're makeable, they're just difficult. 4-10 split spare leave for Mark Welch. He'll play the 4 a little bit too lightly and on the wrong side, so no spare for Mark Welch. He's looking to clean up for a 10 box. Piece of wood across the 10, and he'll cleanly caress it down for another 10. His third 10 of the half, and his third 10 of the game. That's 38 after 4 for Mark Welch. In case you missed it, here are the 4 divisions of Class D North. This is a divisional round today between Mark Welch and Casey McCoole, and these bowlers will meet again towards the end of the season. And that's Mark Welch down there on the head pin on the 1-3 pocket again with a split. He's been 4 for 5 so far this game on the head pin, and he's been 9 for 15 overall for the head pin for the match. That's an ugly, ugly first ball. 4 drop on the head pin, would you believe it? Mark Welch does the best he can with the left side bail in the 10. He's left with the 5, the 10, and the 2 for a 10 box, 7 box minimum. He'll take one more out. It'll be an 8 box for Mark Welch, and that will be a confirmed 46 half for Mark Welch. Mark Welch remarks 46. That's not good. But, you know, you could always just have a banger second half and you can get right back in it. So that's our current standings. Mark Welch still holding on to the total by 6 at the moment. Casey McCoole is on a fill, so it isn't fully fair to say that that difference of 6 is written in stone. It's more written in mud right now. So Casey McCoole fires his fill on the head pin, or not on the head pin, on a spare that is. It'll be a 7 fill. There's a sleeper pin in the back. Let's zoom in on that, actually, shall we? It's the 1, the 5, and the 2. I know the 5 is hard to see. Excuse me, the 1, the 8, and the 2. But he'll spare it up. Always happen. We don't have to ruminate too long on what pins were down there. So Casey has another spare, his third mark of the game. 69 in a ball in 6 for Casey McCoole. He's very enthusiastic about that one. Casey McCoole is only 4 for 16 on head pins, but he has a decent amount of marks so far, 6 spares, compared to Mark Welch's 3. Small observations worth noting. This is a spare fill for Casey McCoole, and it will be a spare fill of what appears to be 6, not in the head pin. 7, 8, 10, 1. No sleepers. McCoole will play the head pin, and he'll take everything out but the 10 pin. It was a valiant effort, but it was a difficult shot to make. McCoole fires on the 10 pin, and he'll take a 9 box. That will put him at 84 after 7. Casey McCoole currently 4 for 17 on head pins. He's been totaling 34 in fills, averaging 5.7 per mark. McCoole now will be looking to fire on lane 14 for the first opening ball. He's to the right of the head pin again, but he drops 7 off the bat. It is the head pin, the 6 pin, and the 10 pin. And he'll take another spare. Casey McCoole is fired up right now. That's a spare. It's 94 in a ball and 8 for Mr. Casey McCoole right now. Casey McCoole is getting hot right now. It's the second game, and he is on fire in terms of the spares. Who needs head pins when you can just get spares? He's totaling 34 in fills. 7 spares, 34 in fills, averaging 4.9 per fill. If he can just get that fill average a little bit higher, he'll really be in business. Casey McCoole, he fires and he calls an audible. He made a bit of a mistake on that first ball, but he gets a generous fill out of it. Looks like a fill of 6. I think it's the 1, 5, 8, and 9 by my bad eyes, apparently. Or just the difficult to observe decks of Portsmouth. So he's currently at 106 in the 9th. Plus 2 balls. Maybe he can get another spare. This one may be a little bit difficult. The 1, 5, 8, 9 is a difficult shot due to the sleepers, and it starts with hitting the head pin. Casey will actually take everything but the head pin. Again, not finding the head pin has been a bit of an Achilles heel for him so far, so No follow-up mark, but he may go for a 10, but he's allergic to the head pin right now. That will put Casey McCoole at 109 and 9. And the score system gave him a 10. Mark Welch is currently correcting that. Thank you, Mark. So 1 ball to go here in the second game of 5. Casey McCoole currently at 109. And McCoole fires. He's on the headpin that time, and he'll take a strike. That was what he was looking for. He was just practicing up to this point. He's currently at 119 and a fill. 5 for 20 on the headpin. Casey McCoole now is. He's up to 25% on the headpin. Only 1 split out of those 5 headpin shots. He's totaled 40 in fills, averaging 5 per mark. 1 strike and 7 spares for Casey McCoole. Things are on the upswing now. He's at 119 and a fill. And I say fill because it's a strike fill, 2 balls. He could get a triple strike, but, well, I say could. So far he took out 2. 121. We'll confirm that score as soon as he's done this last ball here. And McCoole fires. He's to the right, and he'll take 2 more out. I think that's a 4 fill. It should be 123 for Casey McCoole. And that is confirmed. Casey McCoole finishes the second game for a 2-game total of 225 with that 123 in the second. And Mark Welch has to make up 77 pins in this second half in order to catch up to Casey McCoole. You're watching the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I am Steve Kelly on the call. It's great to have you along. That's Mark Welch on lane 13. He's on the headpin. He's been great on the headpin, just been getting some chunky breaks so far. That's the 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, and 10. Pieces missing from a spread eagle. Mark Welch will play the operative pocket, but he'll just take a few pins out for the road. That's the 4, 2, and 9 on the deck that he's left with. And Mark Welch will 10 it up. But Mark Welch needs marks right now. He has to live up to his first name because Casey McCoole caught fire in the second half especially. That 5 mark 123 by Casey McCoole really kind of swayed the match kind of back in his favor after a bit of a sleepy first game. It wasn't a disaster of a first game, but it was... Mark Welch just got hot in the first game, but that's Mark Welch with a headpin shot and a split. Again, these gnarly leaves that Mark is getting left with. That's the 8 and the 10 pin. I'm telling you, Mark Welch is winning in terms of the headpin department. It's just the splits. The splits are killing him. 11 for 17 on headpin shots and 7 for 17 on splits. Or 7 out of 11, technically, if you want to be more academic about the split definition. Mark Welch will attempt to cap the wood and just try to pinball things around, but he can't get a mark. No mark for Mark. Welch on lane 13, and he'll take a 9 box. That will put him at 65 and 7, I believe. Mark Welch still looking to find a strike this season. He still doesn't have a strike yet this season. If he gets one here, he'll have 1 strike for the match and 1 strike for the season. Welch fires on the headpin once again. The king of the headpins, Mark Welch. Another split. The 4, 6, 7 is what Mark Welch is looking at. Mark Welch has only thrown 1 first ball this game that hasn't been a headpin shot. And out of those headpin shots, all but 1 of them have been splits. Mark Welch doesn't convert for a spare. This is the part of Candlepin bowling where you often just think, it's not fair. You can throw a great first ball, and for some bowlers, it may be a strike, and other bowlers, it just may be a junk leave. So Mark Welch, 74 in 8. Just to inject some opinion, I think he does definitely deserve a little bit better than that. He's been throwing a great first ball. The thing you would just hope is, if you're throwing a great first ball, you don't want to necessarily change that. It's just frustrating. And look at that. Mark Welch is on the headpin. And another split. Another split for Mark Welch. Oh, this is a Greek tragedy right here. It's a 7-10, 5-6 for Mark Welch. He's throwing these perfect first balls. He buries the pocket and he gets junk. Will he get a spare out of this? And my goodness. He tries. He almost gets it. But the deck slide doesn't come over for the 7 pin. Welch on lane 13. He's just looking to clean up, and I think it's going to be a fouled 9. Yes, it will be a fouled 9. 83 and 9 for Mark Welch. Yeah, check out that headpin stat. 68% headpin shots, 47% splits. Mark Welch is one unlucky man. Because his first ball is great. Every time I watch that first ball, I'm like, this has got to be it. This has got to be the strike. It's got to be the strike. But I've watched for almost an entire game. He's just gotten completely ripped off. So Mark Welch on lane 13, final first ball of the game of Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. He throws, and it's a bit of a bouncy ball, and he's not on the headpin, but he drops 8. And I think it's probably the best mark opportunity he's had this game so far. That's the 1 and the 9. Lots of wood around it. Poor Mark. All right, Mark. Let's see a spare out of you. He fires. He's on the headpin, and he will get his spare. Gold star for Mark Welch. It's a spare in the 10th, 93 in a ball in 10. Welch 13 for 20 on the headpin, 65%. 9 for 13 for splits, or 9 for 20, depending on if you like imperial or metric. Mark Welch on the headpin will drop 7. He'll try his hardest to catch up to Casey McCoole. He'll finish with a clean 100. But Casey McCoole will take the second game and will take the total at the moment by 11. He wins the second game by 23, 123 to 100, and has reclaimed the total, now up by 11, 225 to 214. That is your score update provided by the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Steve Kelly on the call. It's great to have you along with us here at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama on this increasingly busy Saturday morning at the seacoast. And while we're just taking a quick breather here, I want to just remind you about a couple of different Candlepin bowling resources and social media opportunities and entertainment opportunities we have all over the internet, that is, youtube.com/@Candlepin Bowling Network, and also Instagram for Candlepin Bowling Network. That's where this match will be posted later on. We also have Candlepin Corner on YouTube. Check out the Skins show that's actively airing new episodes. There is @Candlepin Bowling on TikTok. There's, of course, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour on Facebook. And we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later because we're going to be starting the third game here. That's Casey McCoole on lane 13 at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. So McCoole finished with a great second game of 123. He had a first game of 102, and that's Casey McCoole not on the head pin, but with a generous 8 drop on the 1 of the 7 pins. And McCoole is looking to fire for a spare, and he'll miss, sailing between the 1 and the 7 pins. McCoole on lane 13, and he'll miss to the right, overcorrecting a little bit. He'll take an 8 box. 8 after 1 from McCoole. And here's a couple more social media things to check out. AlleyChat, aka alleychat.net, and youtube.com/@alleychat for great recaps of the Friday Night Pro League and AlleyChat Classics for old classic Candlepin shows. There's also Wolfman12395 on YouTube and the Candlepin Bowling channel on YouTube for more and more classic matches from the old days, from likely the 1960s all the way up to the 90s, 2000s, before the modern era. McCoole is not on the head pin for the first ball. The second ball is on the head pin, but he just kisses down a few more pins. He's got the left side diamond to contend with for a 10 box. 4-5-8-2 for Casey McCoole. And McCoole is off target. He'll take a 7 box for 15 after 2 for Mr. Casey McCoole. And also, just to complete the thought, there's 2 podcasts I want to remind you about. There's Ripping the Rack and The Approach. And also on YouTube, we have Tony Levesque and we have Charlie Collins on TikTok. Both produce great independent Candlepin bowling content I want you to check out to support the Candlepin bowling community. We'll talk more about that in a bit. That was Indiana Jones McCoole with a split, the 3 and the 7. And he'll play for the spare, and the wood just doesn't work out. He's left with the 7 pin, no spare. 10 box opportunity for Mr. Casey McCoole. And he'll foul it out for a 9. That should be 24 after 3 for Casey McCoole. I'll confirm that in just a moment. It looks like it's about to be. Yes, it will be. It will be 24 after 3 for Mr. Casey McCoole. McCoole totaling 44 in mark fills so far, averaging 5.5 per. Mark Welch, meanwhile, he's been, you know, for the aforementioned troubles from the previous game, he's only taken 28 in fills, averaging 7 per with those 4 spares. McCoole is on the head pin and on a single pin spare opportunity, and he'll get it. McCoole just marking it up today, 34 and a ball after 4. So again, these are the socials. And lastly, but not leastly, Candlepins for Cancer. Coming up is the any doubles, roll-offs, and final ladder. Check out candlepins4cancer.com, candlepins number 4 cancer.com to sign up for qualifying roll-offs. Or if you just want to skip the bowling and donate to a great cause for bowlers in need of cancer treatments, for payments and financial assistance, Candlepins for Cancer is a fantastic charity organization for that purpose precisely. And Casey McCoole with a gnarly 2 fill. And the second ball follow-up is a 1-2-10 leave for a 10 box. Casey will be in the 2, leaving the 1 and the 10 for an 8 box. 44 after 5 is where Casey McCoole will sit. And that brings us to Mark Welch to start his first half of the third game. Casey McCoole with a 2.5 game total of 269 with 1 strike and 8 spares today. We'll say hello to Mark Welch on lane 14 at Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he's to the right of the head pin, uncharacteristically, I might add. Mark Welch currently dropping 6. 1, 2, 4, and 10 on the deck. Shooting for a spare. And Welch is on the pocket and will get the spare. That's 10 in the ball after 1 for Welch. Welch is looking to have a remedial third game after a misery-filled second game in which the majority of his first balls were headpin shots, but he was just getting absolute junk for leaves and spare shots. So I got to tell you. And he drops 7, late falling 7 for Mr. Mark Welch. And he's looking at the 3-7-10 for a spare leave. And he'll play it, and he'll get it. That's a spare for Mark Welch. 27 and a ball after 2. And looks like we're just doing a quick score correct. The fill was correct down there. It's just he had to poke in the spare, and there it is. So 27 and a ball after 2 for Mark Welch. Mark Welch 14 for 22 on the head pin, 64% head pin percentage. That's a great percentage. He's 10 for 22 in total for splits and 10 for 22 head pin shots for splits. That's a 45% ratio. That's kind of less good. That's more of a luck stat than anything else, especially given Mark Welch's accuracy today. And he'll fill with what appears to be 6. And it's a spare leave on the 1, 2, 4, and 9. And he'll fire on the 1-2 pocket, and he'll get it. A slow-moving spare does go. I was worried about that sleeper pin, but the piece of wood did curl around to get it. He's perfect so far in marks. He's at 43 and a ball after 3, Mark Welch is. Mark Welch is fired up. Sometimes you have to have a really bad game to come back and throw an incredible follow-up game, just assuming there is 1 game remaining. And Mark Welch is on the head pin, and there's that misery once again. That's a 4 fill, can you believe that? That's the 7, 9, 10, 4, 5, 6. Goodness, 4 fill on the headpin shot and a split. And there's not a whole lot you can really do about that, but he almost spares it. I should shut up before I say he's not going to get something, because he seems to be doing great so far this game. And he's going to clean up for a 10 box. He's still perfect this half. 57 after 4 for Mark Welch. 57 after 4 for Mark Welch. Check that out. 15 for 24 on the head pin. He's been totaling 45 in fills, averaging 6.4 per mark. Mr. Mark Welch. And he's on the head pin again. And it looks like it's going to be an 7 drop, excuse me. And this is a spare leave as well, the 5, 3, 9. I think it can go. The 9 pin is the only question mark in this equation, but I just have a feeling. I think this will go. And he fires. The ball drops before the foul line, but it didn't matter. He's at a 4 mark, 67.5. Mark Welch. This is great television right here, folks. 16 for 25 on the head pin for Mark Welch. 8 spares for the match. 11 splits, 44% split percentage. Taking in 45 for fills, averaging 5.6 per fill. That's the story for Mark Welch at the half. He's at 67 in a ball after 5. Compare that to Casey McCool's 44 half. Mark Welch has been working on taking back that total after Casey McCoole really kind of routed him in the second game. So the lead has been passed around between these two bowlers across the first and the third game here. First and the third game so far here. But we're not done yet. We're at the precise halfway point of this Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class D North match at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. And Casey McCoole is getting ready to complete the game here, to beat the game. Let's see if he does it. He starts to the left of the head pin. A little off target. This shot is the 1, 5, 3, 6, 9, 10, 7. One piece of wood, and McCool's off target for the spare shot. And it looks like at the moment it might be a 4-box or greater. But he'll clean up for a 9-box. That was a great cleanup out for McCoole. He's at 53 after 6. So Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama has been around quite a while. Located in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at 599 Lafayette Road. Was established in 1956 by the Genematis family. In 2018, the Medeiros family took ownership and undertook significant renovations to modernize and expand the facility. That's Casey McCoole to the right of the head pin. Seems the tables have turned a little bit this game between our two bowlers. Bowl-O-Rama offers Candlepin bowling, cosmic bowling, an arcade called the Asteroids Game Zone, and a full-service restaurant named Shenanigans. There are 22 lanes, and if my memory serves, there used to be 28 lanes pre-renovation. They just had to lose a few lanes based on logistics of the building, and that will be a 9-box, I believe, for Casey McCoole, if I'm not mistaken. 62 after 7 for Casey McCoole is the score update. Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama also hosts birthday parties. All I have to do is just look to my left and my right. It's not in the frame, but there's birthday parties going on here. They also do corporate events and leagues. There's a league going on to the right of me, also off screen. Casey McCoole, he's to the right of the head pin, but he gets a generous leave. It looks like it's going to be a 7-drop. There's a very well-stocked pro shop at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. If you're in the market for bowling balls in particular, this is definitely the place to go. Bowl-O-Rama hosted the ICBA Youth Candlepin tournaments in the early and mid-2000s. Ask me how I know. I went to a lot of them back in the day. And Casey McCoole finished with a 9-box. That will put him at 71 after 8. That is confirmed. So to finish that thought, check out Bowl-O-Rama.com for more details and information if you want to host a birthday party here or sign up for a league or check out the pro shop to get some swag and equipment. Plenty of stuff to do at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. Right by the seacoast, right by UNH. If you're a UNH student and you're watching, come on over here. And Casey McCoole will get some pins. He'll drop 6. And he'll spare it up, though. Second mark of the match, the game, that is, for Casey McCoole. 81 and a ball in 9. For Mr. Casey McCoole, he's currently 7 for 29 for head pins, 24% by my count. And of those head pins, 3 of them have been splits. He's been averaging 4.6 per mark for the fills and has totaled 46 in total fills. And we're just pausing for a brief score correction, and with all that, I just want to make sure I am still in sync. Things look okay. Oh, they're just clearing a pin. My bad. All good. Scoring is all good. While we're waiting, real quick, can I plug something here real quick, if you don't mind? I am on the team mass holes for the 2024 World Invitational Candlepin Championship, and I'm selling some raffle tickets. If you want to Venmo me at Skelly, I'm selling 1 ticket for $5, 3 tickets for $10, and 5 tickets for $20. And that's an 8 fill for Casey McCoole. He's just off the head pin, but Or he's not on the head pin specifically, but it didn't seem to stop the pins from falling. Casey versus the 1 and the 7, and he'll get it. Casey McCoole gets very enthusiastic when he gets a mark, and it always makes me chuckle a bit because I just love the enthusiasm. Anyway, so yes, if you want to vend me at SkellySkelly and including your message, your name, your address, your city, state, zip, and phone number, and that's only just so I can write it on the physical raffle ticket. I'm not going to save it anywhere, and if you want to message it to me in a more private manner, I'm totally fine with that. There's tons of prizes that will be drawn on November 4th, 2024, and Casey McCoole is just a little off target. It looks like it might be, I think, a 3-fill. That will put him at 102 in the game. He had a rough game here. 102 for Casey McCoole, 3-game total of 327. So his first and third games are similar stories, actually. He rose up to the occasion in the second game with the 123, but kind of came back down to cool off 102. Anyways, Mark Welch is on a banger first half, 67 in a ball, and he's not quite done yet. This fill is on the head pin. He's dropped 8 so far. It is a split, the 5-7 is what he's shooting at. But anyways, so yes, on November 4, 2024, we're going to be drawing a lot of different drawings for the raffle. There is $6,500 up for grabs and prizes, and Mark Welch, will he get the spare? Piece of wood doesn't dance around to collect the 7-pin after school. There's going to be one $2,000 winner, one $1,000 winner, one $750 winner, 2 $500 winners, 3 $250 winners, and 10 $100 winners at the World Candlepin Championship at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, the week of November 4th, 2024. Check it out. I'm a little biased, but I'm on the team Massholes with our fearless leader Matt Susi and Chuck DeRogers at the helm. And that's Mark Welch to the right of the head pin, and pin certainly fell there. Wasn't a head pin shot. Let's see what he can do for a spare leave. But yes, to complete that thought, though, I'd appreciate if you supported Team USA, if you like America, and I'm sure you do, and support the Massholes, the team I'm on. The world needs us. And Mark Welch will attempt to clean up for a spare, and he can't quite do it. It's a valiant effort, but he's left with the 7-pin for a 10-box opportunity. Mark has been marking it up, and he'll just graze the 7-pin. Doesn't hurt it. He'll get a 10-box. That will put him at 94 in 7. Mark Welch bowling closer to B-class or borderline A-class here. 63% head pin shots so far, 44% splits. Again, check out that second game if you want to rewatch that to see how unlucky a bowler can get, with Mark Welch with the majority of his game being head pin shots. But that wasn't a head pin shot. That was a little more of a misfire than anything else. That's the 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9 for Mark Welch. No wood. And he'll kiss down the 2, and the 5 will go with it shortly after. The 7, 8, 9, 1 remain. No mark for Mark. Mark Welch for a 10-box. Thinking long and hard about it. Still thinking long and hard about it. Thinking long and hard about a 10-box. Welch fires. He's off the head pin. He'll leave the head pin, take a 9-box, take everything in the back. 103 and 8 for Mark Welch. And folks, if you think this looks like your thing, if you think Candlepin bowling looks fun, you think you can bowl better than Mark Welch or Casey McCoole, check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center. Not all centers are shown on the map. There may be more than what appears there, but check it out and get in on this Candlepin bowling action, this unique regional New England and Canada exclusive sport for the most part. And Mark Welch is on the head pin with a split. Once again, the dreaded head pin split situation has returned. 4, 6, 3, 7, 9, 10. Mark Welch will play it, though, and he almost converts. One piece of wood almost takes the 10-pin. Kind of turned and looked at the camera for a second, almost with like a really face. Mark Welch going for the 10-box. Great accuracy. He'll take a 10-box for 113 and 9. Welch, 62% for head pins so far today, 18 for 29. He's 13 for 29 on splits. Totaling 53 in fills on marks, averaging 6.6 pins per mark for the fill. Welch fires to the left of the head pin. Bit of a misfire that time. Spare leave 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. That's what he's shooting at. Mark Welch will fire and just slightly miss the head pin. Take the pins in the back, leaving the 4 horsemen right side. 1, 3, 6, 10. Welch for the 10 box. He's on the 1, 3, and he'll run down 3 of the 4 horsemen. The 6 pin is wiggling and decides not to go. That will finish him at 122 in the third game. He'll take the third game. He's at a 3-game total of 336. Mark Welch is. And Casey McCoole is trailing in the total by 9. Mark Welch takes the third game by 20. Mark Welch currently has 4 points to Casey McCoole's 2. And that will transition us to the fourth game here in a little bit. In terms of the fills, actually, both McCoole and Welch are doing great in terms of the total and average. And it says a lot about how valuable fills are and how the tide can sway for various leads and things, and it's all little things to think about. Every pin, the short of it is every pin counts, and that's always the thing to think about in these matches. Don't ever throw a ball away, don't ever throw a box away, don't ever throw a single away. It doesn't matter what it is, don't throw it away. Anyways, bowlers are still just kind of taking a quick breather. So again, in case you missed it, this is the ACST match format. In case you're new to this, it's a 5-string match for our bowlers. They bowl 5 boxes at a time per bowler before they switch lanes and bowlers. They are bowling for up to 14 per match if there's a shutout. Usually it's something like 8-6 or 12-2 or 10-4 or something like that. That seems to be the most common. 2 points earned for each string 1, of course, and the greater total pinfall at the very end, you get 4 additional points. There are 6 classes with the expansion of the ACST this year. There's Class A all the way down to Class F, North and South, and that's just because we have so many bowlers. That's just the way we have to divide up bowlers based on the averages. There are 18 matches in the regular season, kind of think like the NFL. The top 8 in each class and region make the playoffs, and there's also wildcard spots. If you're familiar with the way the playoff structure works in the NFL, you'll be fairly familiar with it in the ACST. And that's Casey McCoole. Check out that strike. Buries the pocket, buries the pins, sends them in the next week. That's a strike for Casey McCoole. McCoole, 26% on the head pin today, but that was definitively a head pin shot. Maybe you just needed to have some water or something. Just hydrate up. Remember to hydrate. It's always good, folks. Take 3 sips right now if you got water within your reach. This is your somewhat not so regular hydration reminder, because Casey McCoole just threw a strike because of it. So McCoole for the double. He fires. Will he get it? He's got that left hook, but he misses the head pin, but gets the head pin. But will it be a strike? It almost is. He missed. It wasn't a head pin shot technically, but he dropped 9 regardless. The 10 pin wiggled and almost went. It was almost a double. We'll see if Casey McCoole can stay on to get it, and he will. Oh man, he got lucky on that one. That was I think even I need to take a moment to recover from that. That's 30 after 2 for McCoole with that spare on strike. 30 after 2 for Casey McCoole. That is confirmed. McCoole filling the spare now. He's to the left. The head pins are still falling. 1, 5, 3, 6, 9, 10. It looks like it's going to be a 4 fill. Not on the head pin. 34 after 2 for Casey McCoole. Casey McCoole thinking long and hard about this. McCoole fires. And he's off target, but he takes everything up with the head pin. He's left only with the head pin. McCoole missed that head pin for a 9 box. 43 after 3 for Casey McCoole. McCoole has totaled 71 additional pins based off of fills on marks. That spare on strike definitely helped him out there, and he's off target. Wild pitch to the left. Takes out 2 pins. 3 pins, excuse me. And McCoole tries to hook in to the 1-3 pocket, but the ball doesn't quite cooperate. He's left with the 4-6-1-10 for a 10-box opportunity, Mr. McCoole. And pins will wrap around and take almost everything, but he'll take a 9-box. That will put him at 52 after 4. And I showed this in the pre-show, but I just want to show this again just officially on the stream in case you want to know how to read the scoreboard. These are what the numbers mean. Of course, there's the point spread at the top, which is what string we're on, and of course the match total and the game total, respectively. The gray area below the 4th of 5 up in the left corner there is representative of the leads. Match and game, respectively. This Casey McCoole on the head pin that resulted in a bail on the left side, and he tries to follow it up, but the 5-pin doesn't go, so no mark for Casey McCoole. And he'll graze down the 5-pin for a 10 box, and he'll finish with a 62.5 in this 4th game of 5 here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It's great to have you along. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for Casey McCoole and Mark Welch. And that was a great first half for Casey McCoole. So he's currently at a 3.5 game total of 389 for Casey McCoole.
Yeah.
And Mark Welch is to the right of the head pin, and pins are still mixing down there. It looks like he's going to open up with a 4 box. He's off target. Wasn't a head pin shot. Mark Welch for a spare bid. And he'll get some, but he won't convert. Mark Welch for the follow-up for the 10 box. He'll take an 8, leaving the 1 and the 3 on the deck. So Mark Welch, the head pin man today, 18 for 31 in the head pin with a 58% percentage. 13 of those 18 head pin shots have been splits, if you could believe it. Mark Welch fires to the left of the head pin. And it is a 4 drop. There's 2 sleeper pins behind the 4 horsemen right side. And Welch trying to run him down. He almost runs them all down, the 10 pin. Mark Welch yelling stuff at the pins. Can't quite hear it, but I can't imagine it's G-rated. Welch for the 10 box. He'll get the 10 box. Oh, goodness. So, folks, you're watching the ACST. I'm Steve Kelly on the call. It's great to have you along. If you're just tuning in, this is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, a season-long series of one-on-one Candlepin bowling matches between challengers organized into classes and divisions competing for playoff contention. Hope this broadcast finds you well. Everyone involved here, from the bowlers to the staff you cannot see, all appreciate your viewership and interest in this live stream, as well as Candlepin bowling as a whole. That's Mark Welch down there in the red on lane 14. And he misses the head pin. Suddenly he's not so on the head pin now. I think he's trying to see if he can avoid the splits, but he's not getting really great leaves out of this so far. Walsh fires, and he's to the left of the head pin. And he's looking at a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. The 1, the 5, and the 9 are on the deck for Mr. Mark Welch. Welch fires for the 10 box. He'll take out the head pin, which jumps over the 5 and the 9 for an 8 box. That will put him at 26 after 3. Just double checking the scores. Yes, we are perfectly in sync. So Welch having a little bit of trouble with the head pin this game, at least. He has yet to find it. Still hoping he gets a strike, so I can say that's his first strike of the season. He's on the 1-3 pocket a little bit too full. A little bit frustrated by that. It looks like the head pin is back and the splits are back. Welch looking to spare it up. 4, 6, 2, 7, 10. 2-4 pocket is what you need to shoot at. And he'll play the 2-4 pocket. And it was a great, great, great try. He left the 6 and the 10. The 6 pin is wiggling. 10 box opportunity, 8 box minimum for Mark Welch on lane 14 at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. In Portsmouth, New Hampshire, he'll take a 10 box. 36 after 4 for Mark Welch. And Mark Welch is on the head pin, and with a split, pin still mixing. It looks like, my goodness, it's another eagle minus the 2 on lane 14. And some pins even slid. The 6 pin slid a bit. And it's Welch versus the broken eagle. More roadkill down there. No mark for Welch. No mark for Mark Welch. And Welch, that's a wild pitch. Looks like he's getting a little bit frustrated, but got to stay focused. He's at 43 after 5. Casey McCoole is at 62 after 5. And again, these games have been kind of back and forth for the most part. We have one bowler getting hot and the other bowler cooling off, and opposing order. Because at the moment, if we ended the game right now, they would be tied. Well, Casey McCoole would get 4 additional points because he's up in the total by 10, but it's that close, folks. That's how close we are. So remember, every pin counts. Don't throw balls away. Don't discount anything because that can get you points no matter what. Casey McCool's on that head pin, and he drops 8. Leaves the 4 and the 10 on the deck. Excuse me, the 6 and the 10 on the deck. Double buffered wood in front of the 6 and the 10, but it starts with hitting it. Casey McCoole whiffs it. No mark for Casey McCoole. That was a gimme. McCoole for the 10 box, and he'll miss the second, get the third. You know the rest of the lyrics. That's a 10 box for Casey McCoole, 72 after 6. Casey McCoole raking in 71 in total mark fills today, averaging 5.5 per. Compare that to Mark Welch, who's totaling 53 in fills, averaging 6.6 per. Casey McCoole is 10 for 36 on the head pin, and 3 for those 10 on splits. That is your advanced stats update provided by the Atlantic Candlepin Single Store with nothing but gumption and a spreadsheet. And that's McCoole on the head pin, if you could believe that, with a nasty, nasty split. That's the Portsmouth special right there, the right side hay bale in the 7 pin. 3, 4, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Casey will take the 5 and nothing else. He's shooting for a 5-box minimum, 10-box maximum. Got to get some pins out of this. He'll take some. He'll leave the 7 and the 10 for an 8-box for Casey McCoole. That puts him at 80 and 7. Folks, if you live in the area or are willing to make the pilgrimage, the Candlepin bowling community would absolutely appreciate your interest in visitation. Check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center if you would like to give this unique Candlepin sport that is only found in certain areas of the U.S. and Canada a try. If you're just joining us, I thank you for joining and hope you stick around to watch more Candlepin matches, of course. That's an 8-drop for Casey McCoole. Wasn't on the head pin, if you could believe it. The 2 and the 4 are on the deck. And Casey calls an audible, misfired something with his wrist placement or something. That happens. I know when I was rolling off at Lakeside Lanes yesterday, I had a pretty frustrating 3 games myself, so I know the feeling, definitely. That's a 10-box for Casey McCoole. He misses the second and gets the third. Several PGSs today. Paul Grant is in the money. 90 after 8 for Casey McCoole. McCoole fires to the left of the head pin. He takes pins. That's about all I can say about that. Left half minus a 7, and McCoole is on the head pin this time, but the piece of wood sort of kind of thwarts the attempts to take everything out. He's left with a 3 and the 9 on the deck for a 10-box opportunity, 8-box minimum for Casey McCoole. And he'll fire, take the sleeper for a 9-box. That puts him at 99 in 9. It's a lot of 9s for Casey McCoole. Casey McCoole's at a... Well, we'll assess the totals in one more box, shall we? McCoole has 2 strikes and 11 spares on the day. 2 more strikes than Mark Welch. And he's on the head pin, and he's dropping 8. The 5 and the 10 are on the deck. The 5-10 split with some wood. I don't know if that wood is really going to help unless you feel dangerous and want to cap that wood, and that might be your best opportunity. It's possible without it, but I would probably maybe just go for it. The trick shot is always the second ball. What do you got to lose? Casey's currently at 106 with this incomplete 10th box. 107, excuse me. Casey will play the pin directly, so no, there's not going to be a mark involved here. Potential for 109 for Casey McCoole. McCoole will fire, and I believe that will be a 10-box for 109. Casey remarking that he got a 10 pin for once. I guess he has some trouble with those. That's a 4-game total of 436 for Casey McCoole with that 109. Mark Welch needs to make up 66 pins to tie in the 4th game here, and 67 to win. Mark Welch opening up with a bit of a misfire to the right of the head pin this time. Mark Welch, who was great on the head pin up to this point, has suddenly lost a bit of steam, lost a step or two. Mark Welch on the 1-3 pocket, he buries it, but he leaves the 2 and the 4 on the deck. Two and the 4 on the deck for Mark Welch. And he'll take a 10 box, cleans up. 53 and 6 for Mark Welch. Currently 20 for 36 on the head pin and 15 for 36 on splits. Casey McCoole is 12 for 40 on the head pin. And of those 12 head pin shots, he's got 5 splits. Welch fires on the head pin, on the nose, and will it go? He drops 9. The 4 pin is the only one that didn't go. I notice Mark Welch tends to have a lot of yelling matches with the pins after he throws a ball. I can't quite hear what he's saying, but I'm sure it's the most civil of conversations. Mark Welch fires, and it looks like he'll get it. He'll just get it. Very, very risky shot that was slightly off target, but the wood kind of guided the ball back to the pins, or guided a pin back into the pin. 63 and a fill for Mark Welch. This is a must-fill high situation for Mark Welch, where he needs to make up a lot of pins in short order. 63 and he fires. He's on the head pin. Drops 7, drops 8. The 6 and the 10 are on the deck for Mark Welch. Piece of wood in front of the 6. That might be... Ooh, it might be dangerous. And he's just off target. He gets by. Wood resettling. This could be a PGS situation. The PGS Tour. I was just thinking long and hard about it. The pitch. It's in the gutter. It's going to be an 8 box. 79 for Mark Welch. Welch has gone down to a 58% head pin percentage for the day so far. But again, that's split. Look at the splits compared to McCoole. 15 versus McCoole's 5. That is nuts. McCoole doing slightly better in terms of the fills. 71 to Mark Welch's 61, averaging 5.5 per, while Mark Welch has the higher average per, 6.8. Welch on lane 13. He's on the pocket. Buries it. Leaves the 7 pin. Great head pin shot. I thought it was going to go. He's had several shots like that this game that could have been potential strikes in some other alternate universe. Mark Welch versus the single pin spare opportunity, the 7 pin. He's got a fire on it. And he's going to get it. I think that should be fine. 89 in a ball for Mark Welch. Hey, as long as it's legal, you take it. 89 and a ball for Mark Welch. 10th spare of the match. Casey McCool's at 11. Casey McCoole also has 2 strikes. Welch is filling a spare here at Bowl-O-Rama in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And he'll fire, and he's got 5 on that fill. It's off the head pin. 4 horsemen left side and a sleeper. 4 horsemen left side and the 9. And Welch fires. He'll take the 7 and only the 7. Bit of a misfire on the second ball. Welch for the 10 box. He'll take a 6. He'll take another 100. Mark Welch seemingly good at bowling hundreds. No bowler has bowled under 100 this game. At the end of the 4th, we are tied in the total, folks. This is a match. 436 to 436. Casey McCoole and Mark Welch are in a dead heat in the total. Casey McCoole did take the 4th game, but they are exactly tied in terms of the point distribution right now. If we ended the match right now and pretended this was the 5th, they would go home with 7 points apiece. So that's where we're currently at right now, folks. And so this is going to be one exciting 5th game because it's effectively a reset. Or like a one game roll-off. Whatever it is. We're still bowling for standings points, so you get it. But hey, just to say it for the sake of saying it, this is the equivalent of like overtime if we had such a thing in the Atlantic Candlepin singles tour. So we're going to have Casey McCoole start out here in the 5th and final game. And McCoole fires. He's on the head pin. 6 and 7 and 8 drop for Casey McCoole on the head pin. The 4 and the 7 got left on the deck. McCoole fires on lane 13, and he'll spare it up. That's exactly what you want to see in this knockdown, drag-out 5th game here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I'm Steve Kelly on the mic. It's great to have you along with us. Whenever you're watching, however you're watching, whether it's live, whether it's 10 years from now, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad you're watching. Supporting the Candlepin bowling community. Casey McCoole on the head pin on the 1-3 pocket. He'll fill with 5, believe it or not. That's a spare leave, difficult spare leave, left side diamond in the 10. 4, 5, 2, 8, 10. And Casey will be slightly off to the left. He'll take 2 pins out of the array. 2, 8, 5 is what he's looking at. He'll shoot for the 10 box. And he'll take the 10 box, though. He hasn't left any pins on the table. He's at 25 after 2. Great pinning by Casey McCoole. Casey McCoole is currently 14 for 42 on the head pin. 6 of those head pins have been splits. That's where we stand. He's got 2 strikes and 12 spares. Casey McCoole on the pocket. He drops 8 again. The 2 and the 4 are what he's left to contend with. Spare leave. Should be fairly straightforward. Casey throws this kind of right to left ball. That's sort of, it's like a 10-pin style throw almost. And it's on a favorable side for him, but that would, oh no, Casey McCoole started too far to the center. Hooked left too fast, went into the gutter. Casey McCoole fires, the ball hit the planks far more to the right, but it hooked a little bit too fast that time. That was a 9 box for Casey McCoole, 34 after 3. Something I've noticed about both of our bowlers is the way they're releasing their ball appears to be the ball is dropping before the foul line, and there's 2 different grades of wood. There's the oiled wood and the not so oiled wood, you know, because the approach versus the actual lane part of the lane. And that can really affect how your ball grips the ground, so you got to be careful about that. I saw that in at least one box with Mark Welch and with Casey McCoole. I've seen that a few times here. That one did not connect with the approach. It connected with the lane. But there's no mark for Casey McCoole here. It's a 1, 6, 9, 10, 10 box opportunity, 6 box minimum. Casey McCoole will fire, and he'll leave the 1 and the 10 after the wood settles for an 8 box. That's 42 after 4 for Casey McCoole. McCoole 15 for 44 on the head pin. Compare that to Welch's 23 for 40 on the head pin. McCoole on the head pin that time, and an awkward split. Look at that. 4, 6, 3, 8, 10. His 7th split of the game. 4, 6, 3, 8, 10 for Casey McCoole. A piece of wood in front of the 3 diagonally. That might be the one to play, but McCoole hooks too far to the left, takes out only the 8 pin. It's going to be a 6 box or higher for Casey McCoole on lane 13. And he'll sail through the center, take a 6 box, and finish with a 48.5 for Casey McCoole. 4.5 game total of 484 for Casey McCoole with that 48.5. Mark Welch had a 4 game total of 436. So Mark Welch's turn to bowl his final first half of this 5-game series today at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Mark Welch to the right of the head pin. And he'll drop some pins. He'll drop 6 pins. Looks like the 1, 2, 8, and 9 on the deck. And Welch fires. Misfire there. Mark Welch remarking, what'd you do that for? And, well, I guess I can't disagree. He'll clean up, though, for a 9 box. It was a decent out. 9 after 1 for Mark Welch. Mark Welch still yelling at the pins down there. Something I love about a cardioid microphone. You can yell whatever you want when you're bowling in my matches, and my mic will likely pick up very little, if any, of it. Mark Welch on lane 14 of Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. First ball, second fox. On the head pin, this time he buries the pocket. He drops a late falling 8. The 8 and the 6 are on the deck. Mark Welch. He fires. I think it might be good. He will take a spare. Mark Welch is on the board for 19 after 2 with that mark. Again, this is a must-win situation for both of our bowlers. They were completely tied in a dead heat at the end of the 4th game. Even points across the board, so it's effectively a one-string roll-off. A lot of points in the balance. 6 points for this 5th game, especially in a tie situation. Welch is to the right of the head pin, and he fills that spare with 8. I don't know if it's intentional that he's missing the head pin now, but he's getting decent mixes out of it at least. Welch fires. Spin ball, and he'll take another spare. 37 and a ball after 3 for Mr. Mark Welch. That is confirmed. And Casey McCool's 48.5 is confirmed as well, just for integrity purposes. Welch, he's on the head pin, and he'll take another 5 on the fill. The right side hay bale. 5, 6, 3, 9, 10. Piece of wood in front of the 5. Welch fires. Will he get another spare? And he will. He defeats the bale. He burns down the bale. 3 marks in a row for Mark Welch. That would be $50 in bonus money if we were Channel 5. 52 in a ball for Mark Welch. I think. Actually, I might have a score correction because I'm just looking up at the board, and it seems he had a 6 fill in the 3rd. So, excuse me, 53 in a ball for Mark Welch. And Welch will fill that spare with 4. Headpin shot in a split, the worst kind, spread eagle. 3, excuse me, not 4. Again, sleeper pins are very hard to see at this house, especially from a far distance away, so any score errors I'm slowly realizing are probably mine. So, hey, it is what it is. But just syncing up with the automatic score system that they're maintaining and score correcting down there. And if they're correct, then I'm correct. That's a 10 box for Mark Welch. And that will put him at a competitive 66.5 to Casey McCool's 48. So now the race is on. They are 18 pins apart, and they have 5 boxes to state their final claim and make their final totals. This is a 6-game, 5th game. They were tied exactly in the 4th game, if my math was correct. So this is quite the situation for our bowlers, and Casey McCoole is just going to take a quick breather here. So Casey McCoole with 2 strikes and 12 spares. Mark Welch with 0 strikes and 13 spares. Welch has 26 for 45 head pins today. McCoole 16 for 45 on the head pin. Welch doing better on the head pins, but he's just so unlucky on the splits. But Casey McCool's starting to get up there. He's at 16%, 7 to Welch's 16. And Casey McCoole will lead off to the left of the head pin, and he'll drop 7 to start out here. Just has to run down the 1-3-6 for a spare, and he needs this spare to catch up with Welch. And he'll take the head pin and the head pin only. 3-6 is what he's left for a 10 box, 8 box minimum. Casey McCoole will take a 9 box. Indiana Jones has 57 after 6. And McCoole fires. Off target from the head pin, but he's taken a decent amount of pins down with him. So 1789. 1789, my favorite array of numbers right now. And McCoole will take one more pin out in the back row. And McCoole will miss for a 7 box. 64-7. Suddenly, McCoole might be in the danger zone here. That's a Top Gun reference for those of you who weren't sure. McCoole has 1 mark this game. Welch has 3 marks this game. McCoole is still trying to catch up to Welch's half. Getting a little worried about this at this point for McCoole. He has a must mark last 3 boxes here. McCoole fires on the headpin. That was a good ball on the pocket, but not much to show for it. He's left with the 4, the 9, and the 7 on the deck. That's a headpin shot and a split. 17 headpins for McCoole today, and he almost converts the spare and heartbreaker. The 9 pins left on the deck. The wood does not come over to pick it up after school. And McCoole will take a 9 box, 73-8. And at this point, things are looking dangerous. I won't say it's over until we're totally done, but McCoole needs marks. And he's off to the left of the headpin. That was a misfire. He drops 2. Back row. McCoole off target again, no mark. I think Mark Welch may have this at this point. So Casey's at 7 so far, 1, 3, 6 on the deck. So folks, before we go, I want to thank a couple of folks, like our ACST League Commissioner Danny Finn, our Class D Treasurer Nate Lees. McCoole will take an 8 box. Folks like Danny Finn and Nate Lees, they make this possible. They handle the management, the financials, all the parameters, all the stuff that we need to get things going. And also talk about Micah Imperato, who does all the stats and the crunching and all the wizardry that he does to get all the numbers and things going. That's McCoole to the right of the headpin. And he's dropped 6. That is the 1, 2, 4, 8 on the deck. And McCoole for his final mark attempt, and he'll get a mark. Bit of a somber mark at this point. He's at 91-10. At this point, unless Welsh has a disastrous 5th game, I am a little more cognizant of the increasing picture of the points here, but we'll see how things pan out here. McCoole could really use a 10 fill if he can get it. He's on the headpin, and he'll certainly try, and will it be a 10 fill? And he yells, and he continues to yell. And I want to yell with him, but man, that was like effectively a 9.5, but he'll finish with a 100. A hard-fought 100 he certainly went to war for towards the end. Casey McCoole will finish with a 5-game total of 536. And Mark Welch has to make up 34 pins to tie and 35 points to win 6 additional points and go 10-4. So we'll see where that takes us. We'll assess the final point totals here in a little bit at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I'm glad to have you along with us. I'm Steve Kelly on the mic. It's been a pleasure having you. So yes, I thank Mike Imperato, who does all the stats and things for us. That's not a headpin shot from Mark Welch, by the way. Drop 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I thank Brian Huber for always kind of giving me some pointers for advice and direction. And, I think Bill Olson as well. Bill Olson's also given me some tips, so just remembering people here. Staff at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama, Bob Allard, as always. Always a pleasure for having you help us out and give us all the info we need, lane assignments and scheduling and whatnot. Always appreciate that. And, of course, viewers like you. I always appreciate folks like you watching, whether it's now, whether it's 50 years from now. It doesn't matter to me. I always appreciate you watching. Wouldn't do this without you. Always appreciate your support for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour and Candlepin Bowling as a whole. Best way to express your support is to like, comment, subscribe to stuff like this on Candlepin Bowling Network, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, Candlepin Corner, TikTok if you're into that, and also check out your local bowling center as well if you want to just support your local bowling center. It's always kind of like a localized communal effort to keep the sport alive and keep things going. I'd always appreciate all of y'all supporting this kind of stuff. That's Mark Welch on the 2-5, and he's going to take a 9 box. He's at 85-7. 521 to Casey McCool's 536. You can kind of see the gap closing now. So at the moment, Casey McCoole could stand to take 10 points if Mark Welch has a really disastrous final 3 boxes here, but we'll see where that takes us. Mark Welch at 27 headpin shots and 17 splits today, out of 47 so far. Welch is off to the right of to the left of the headpin and drops 7. The 1-3-10 is what he's shooting at. He was at 85 and 7. That is confirmed. Just double checking to make sure I'm in sync. Casey McCoole did finish with a 100 in the 5th. And Mark, just a little off target, wild pitch to the right on the 10 pin. The 1 and the 3 are left on the deck. Welch fires, and he just whiffs the head pin for an 8 box. 93 in 8 for Mark Welch. Welch. I want to say Welsh because for some reason I have Wales on the mind, having been to Wales, but I don't think Mark Welch is Welsh. Say that 5 times fast. Mark Welch on lane 13, slight misfire to the left of the head pin. And he fires on lane 13, takes out the 6 pin and the 6 pin only. 1, 5, 3, 9, 10 for Mark Welch, 5 box minimum. And he'll take 8. He's at 101, and that will overtake Casey McCoole officially. So we will take the 5th game, and the total is also in favor of Mark Welch by 1. So Mark Welch is the winner in terms of majority points. He'll take 10 over Casey McCool's 4. So that's going to be the story of the match. This is just gravy at this point, and Mark Welch, again, having trouble with the head pin all of a sudden. He's off to the left with a wild pitch. 3 drop. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. Mark Welch buries the pocket that time. Or doesn't bury the pocket, but, you know, buries the center. Takes everything out. 111 and a ball for Mark Welch at this point. All right, so Welch on lane 13. This is just for a fill, and it's just gravy. He has done the deed. He has taken majority pins and majority points, and that will be a 6 fill for Mark Welch. It should be 117, I believe, after all is said and done, and that's what the score says, so I am confident in that assertion. Mark Welch will finish with a 5-game total of 553. Really impressive for Class D. That's some Class B bowlers sometimes don't reach that total. So Mark Welch will finish 553 over Casey McCool's 536. That's not a bad total either. So both bowlers for Class D bowling fantastically today. So give me one moment and we'll just assess the final stats here. If I can get that just queued up. Let's take a look at the final spread here. So for the final, we have Casey McCoole at 4 points, Mark Welch taking 10. The lead really was passed around throughout the day. Mark Welch opened with 2 points with the 114 to Casey McCool's 102, and then Casey McCoole rallied back with a 123 2 points later on. And then the 3rd game, Mark Welch kind of got things together, and then in the 4th game, Casey McCoole got things together with 2 points. Mark Welch, though, in the must-win Game 5, in which they were tied after Game 4, he pulled out all the stops to mark things up for get a 117, while Casey McCoole just struggled to find the head pin and find marks with a 100. So Casey McCoole finishes with a 5-game total of 536, and Mark Welch finishes with a 5-game total of 553. And again, Mark Welch takes 10 points over Casey McCool's 4. Mark Welch will rise to 12 and 16, while Casey McCoole will go to 6 and 22. Those are the updated win-loss ratios, or records today, excuse me. Mark Welch averaged 111. Casey McCoole averaged 107. These are really good averages, all things considered. These are Class B, borderline Class A some days averages. Mark Welch with 27 head pins for the day, 54%. That's really good. He just got a little bit ripped off in some of those games, as you may have saw, especially in the 2nd game, where most of his shots were the head pin, but he just got nothing but crap splits for it. Casey McCoole, 34% in the head pin. That's probably a point of improvement if I had anything to suggest. And then in fills, we were almost even. Mark Welch finished with an 89 fill total, averaging 6.4 per mark, while Casey McCoole totaled 85 in fills, averaging 5.7 per mark. Splits, Mark Welch, you saw it. He was much more unlucky than Casey McCoole, and that was kind of is what it is. That's Candlepin bowling. But anyways, that should just about do it for us at Portsmouth Bowl-O-Rama. For Mark Welch and Casey McCoole, I've been Steve Kelly. It's been great to have you along, and I'd appreciate if you could check out Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube and Instagram, TikTok at Candlepin Bowling if you're into TikTok, Candlepin Corner on YouTube, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook, of course. There's Candlepin Chat on Facebook, one of the most active discussion hubs for Candlepin Bowling. There's Alley Chat, as I mentioned previously. There's the classic Candlepin TV shows, YouTube channels, Ripping the Rack podcast, the Approach Cop podcast. There's Tony Levesque on YouTube and Charlie Collins on TikTok. And, of course, check out candlepins4cancer.com to sign up for qualifying roll-offs or to donate. You can either bowl or you can either skip the bowling if you want. And then, of course, I'm on the mass holes. And if you can just consider purchasing a ticket for the mass holes for Team USA for supporting the team throughout the week in the World Championship Tournament at Leda Lanes this November, I'd appreciate it. But anyways, after all that, check out candlepin.org and go bowling to find your nearest center and support your local bowling alleys. Anyways, I've been Steve Kelly, and for Casey McCoole and Mark Welch, have a great one, everybody. I'll see you at the next Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour.